Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Carolyn Dreger-Maston, and I here for the Great Old Broads Wilderness along with my colleague, Laurie Kerr. And we are coming from Vancouver, Washington, actually, so we've come quite a way, like 5 hours, I guess, to get here. We're really glad to be here. The Great Old Broads Wilderness is a non-profit organization, which we'll tell you more about. But I want to start off by saying that, to be a Great Old Broad, you really don't have to be old. You really don't have to be a woman. And also, you just have to be great. So that's why we're here. And we're going to tell you about a project that has been really ongoing for 7 years, although we're just going to report on the 2023 aspect of it and go from there. So I hope that by the end of this, you'll see the value of a small recreational community with a well-developed social structure and the value that it can be to wilderness overall and trail advocacy. So the Great Old Broads Wilderness are a national organization. We are one of the regional chapters. We call it a broadband, and we're headquarters in Vancouver, Washington / Portland, Oregon. So we have members from both locations. So we're a women-led organization. We think we bring a lot of knowledge and leadership, maybe some humor to the conservation movement. And so we are, we're here to do, for stewardship, advocacy, fun, etc. Now, our vision and our values: the wild public lands are treasured for their intrinsic value and protected for current and future generations. So they're here for everyone. I think we all acknowledge the value of trails and the value of wilderness. And so we recognize that maybe we need a little bit of protection. It's not just, it's just not something that's going to happen naturally. In fact, we are older women who value the work of our mothers and our grandmothers and fathers and grandfathers who in the 1950s and 1960s and before advocated for trail opportunities and wilderness and public lands preservation. So on the left we see Polly Dyer, and she is one of the people who worked very hard to collect signatures, to be a real networker, to connect public officials and the elected officials with local people. So we just see this as a very strong legacy. We are people of an age that remember the afore times when public lands were not valued, when wilderness and trails and green spaces and communities and connector trails to communities, they were not valued at all. Right, so then, of course, the work of a lot of these people culminated in the Wilderness Act of 1964, where Congress established the National Wilderness Preservation System and authorized itself to designate wilderness areas. I'd like to see by a show of hands how many of you have visited wilderness areas. Okay, oh, that's terrific, right. So the Forest Service is required to maintain wilderness standards within wilderness boundaries. And because of that, they need to collect data, and they need help with collecting data. So there is a lot of need for assembling data about trail usage. In fact, just last night at the social, we talked to another person who said, oh, we could really use you in our forest and wilderness area as well. So here we are in our 60s and 70s. We have some members in their 80s. They're still out hiking a lot. And so we look at how can we apply our life experiences to sustain this legacy that came to us through the Wilderness Act and through many different measures. Many of us have been in careers for 30 or 40 years, and we possess a lot of knowledge and experience in science and law, environmental analysis. We know how to research topics. We know how to communicate. We know how to collect substantive evidence and present it. And we feel that we can also be role models for a younger generation that may wish to maintain wilderness areas and trails access in the future. So we also consider ourselves the boots on the ground, where we can track local issues related to trails and wilderness and green space We can research these topics, deliver that substantive evidence, and we can bring it to the attention of Washington Trails Association, to our local officials. We can look for opportunities for partnerships. And I'll talk about the partnerships in the next slide here. So we do advocacy. There's a lot of going to meetings and someone saying, I'll go to this meeting, I'll come back and bring a report on it, on this issue. If there's a rally going on, we'll see, someone will stand up and say, I'll organize our attendance at that rally. We do stewardship, as you see here with the WTA working on trails. We do a lot of tree plantings and bulb plantings in the Vancouver area, Vancouver and Southwest Washington and the Columbia River Gorge and out towards the estuary. We work with WTA, as you see listed there, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Columbia Land Trust, the Cascade Forest Conservancy, the Lower Columbia Estuary, and the Forest Service. We also do a lot of education we gain a lot of education by calling in experts and having them speak to us about issues. And then we do education in communities as well. And then we also have a lot of fun. We go out on trails. On the right, we see a lady smelling lupin on a Mount St. Helens big event where we had 40 people from Oregon and Washington coming to Mount St. Helens to learn about the landscape there and preservation and trails. This is just a month and a half ago. In addition to having those skill sets and experience, we are also really passionate and we're dedicated and we have time and we have a vote. So we have fun doing serious work. And so the next thing we're going to do is Laurie's going to tell you about one project example that's been going on actually for 7 years where we've contributed. She's going to talk with you just about 1 year, I guess maybe 2 years, this one project where we have grant money. And so I'm going to pass the podium off to Laurie Kerr.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that. Public lands managers, the Forest Service, has to measure some characteristics of wilderness. And one of those characteristics is solitude. And solitude, I have several definitions. The act of being alone, the act of being alone in nature, the act of being without people around. Those are some of the definitions I came up with. So the Forest Service has to measure solitude, and what we're going to do is we're going to show you how we measured solitude, and in doing so, helping the Forest Service to meet the federal mandate. So why did we get started in the first place? Well, we have a big group of gals that love to hike. And we like to hike with a purpose. So we wanted to make a difference. We wanted to help make a difference. But we're not in a position where we can build trails and move rocks. And we're older. We'll hurt ourselves. So thankfully, we found the National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance. This is a national organization. It's a funding mechanism. And they fund lots of different projects. Not just solitude monitoring, they fund trail building, they fund invasive pulling. There's a lot of areas that they connect with. I would encourage you to look into this organization if you're interested. So how did we begin this project? So I have to take you back 7 years ago, okay, when we first started this project. And we wanted to develop relationships with our Forest Service people. So I wrote letters to the editor and telling them how well the Forest Service was doing, but how underfunded and how much they needed volunteers. I attended their meetings when they asked. I asked their people to come and talk at our membership meetings. I really got involved so they would know me. And then one of the first things I did was I volunteered to do solitude monitoring without any funding. And we showed up. There were just a few of us that first year. But the next year, we received funding. So this is our 7th year of receiving this funding, and we've done solitude monitoring in all these different wilderness areas. Trapper Creek is in Washington. It's just north of Carson. It's a small wilderness. Mark Hatfield is in Oregon. It's just east of Portland. Indian Heaven, we'll be talking about that in just a second. Salmon Huckleberry is on the Mount Hood area, and Mount Adams is along just south of Mount Adams area. We've monitored all of these different areas and received funding for all of these projects. We also went to our National Broads office in Durango and asked for assistance from them, and they gladly gave it to us. We, during the grant writing process, of course, it's a collaborative effort between the Forest Service and the Great Old Broads for Wilderness, okay? So where's Indian Heaven Wilderness? Here we are. The little red circle shows the little teeny area in the southwest Washington, just north of Trapper Creek Wilderness, and southwest of Mount Adams Wilderness. So what did the Mount Adams Ranger District need from us? Well, they needed solitude monitoring. We'll get into that and how we measured it in Indian Heaven. This is a 2023-2024. It's a 2-year grant cycle now. It was 1 year, but now we're in a 2-year cycle. They needed boots on the ground. They're not on the ground enough, and they're underfunded, like I said. They needed people to leave no trace ethic, pick up garbage, talk to people about leave no trace. Part of the grant cycle, though, is increasing their wilderness stewardship performance values. And on the grant proposal, we proposed a 4+ point increase for trails and a 2+ point increase for opportunities for solitude. And these measurements, these values are really what got us our funding. So what do the Broads need? Okay, so the Broads needed spot subscriptions. We had 2 spot devices, but we needed the subscriptions paid for. We needed training. And our training involved a half a day of in-person training with the Forest Service, as well as their seasonal employees. We also needed travel reimbursement to and from trailheads, because our trailheads from where we live are approximately 65 to 90 miles one way from where we live. So we wanted some mileage reimbursement. We also wanted meals. We wanted a meal, because it's an 8-hour day if you're doing even one session. We needed maps of the area. We also needed snacks for our training, and we also asked for camping reimbursement. How did we write the grant? Okay, well, first of all, we went online with National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance, and we listened to some of the webinars. They're very helpful. You can ask questions. They're very, very easy to work with. We started with a small ask. We didn't start with a 12 grand. We started with a $3,000 level, just because I thought, we're never going to get this, But we did. Every year we get it. So now we're up to 12 grand. And we also received support from our local chapter, which is our Cascade Volcanoes broadband, which I am the leader of, and the National Office of the Great Old Broads for Wilderness. So here I am. How did we collect our data? So we're collecting data on the number of counts, the number of people that we see, okay? And each zone had to have 10 sessions. Now there are 5 zones, so 5 times 10 is a total of 50 sessions. That's a lot of hours, right? And each session had to be at least 4 hours in the zone, in the wilderness zone. And some of these zones you have to hike up to get into. The data collection needed to be completed between May and October 15th. Well, as many of you know, if you've been in the wilderness, May is covered in snow. So Indian Heaven really isn't even accessible till the middle of July. So we had a smaller window, really. And then the mosquitoes. Let me tell you about the mosquitoes in June. Well, you already know, okay? And then there's the weather, the forest fires, then the smoke and the rain. So you all know what I'm talking about. When it says between May and October 15th, you really don't have that large of a window. I think you know that. So data collection included tallying the number of traveling encounters, and we'll get into the data sheet. It's just very simple. Other wilderness protocols counted for, they wanted the number of dogs, the number of unleashed dogs, the number of overhead airplanes, the number of stock. Oh, they were so kind to us this year. All we had to do is count people, and I love it. And also the total amount of time to which we were out there. So the trail stewards traveled in pairs, and we carried our spot and our phone. We had a Venza loaded on our phones. Some of us had Gaia. I'll get into how we did that, but we did have to carry spot devices. So how many trails and how did we do this? Okay, so here we are. This is my friend on the left, Linda. She is a young 81-year-old broad, and she races up the trails. She's really a rock star. She loves to hike. She'll camp out in the rain. She's just a trooper. I mean, these are the gals that we have. There's Bondi on the right. She is a mere 68 years old, and she is also a trooper. She knows all about the plants. She's got a biology degree, and she's very knowledgeable. The middle on the upper, that is Blue Lake. Okay, maybe somebody's been to Blue Lake. It's a very, very busy place. I'll get into that. Okay, so we carried a Venza on our map, on our phones, and this is what a Venza will look like if it's loaded on your map, if you receive it from the Forest Service. So in the upper left, yellow, is Placid Lake. That is a very remote trail. It's about 7.5 mile round trip up to the PCT. The PCT runs north and south, as you can see. And we got data on this one from about 0 people to maybe, I think we got 17 on the last one. So it's pretty remote. Not a lot of people on this one. The Blue Lake Trail is the pink. It starts at Thomas Lake and then it goes up to the PCT. That is our busiest trail. I was up there last weekend and we got a count of 117 people, and the prior summer we got 190 over 200. So, and Labor Day, that's the busiest. So the management does some they do some adjustments up there in order to decrease the amount of people. Blue Lake, Deep Lake. Oh no, let me talk about Indian Racetrack. Indian Racetrack is the yellow on the lower quadrant there. Indian Racetrack is a very important historical and cultural place. The indigenous people still use it for ceremonial, and they use it to gather. They used it historically. It was a meeting place. They did actually race their horses, and you can see the track around the field. They used it to meet, to trade, to eat. It was a really major place, so it's a very important place, Indian Racetrack. Going up to East Crater is the yellow, and it goes, as you can see, it starts on the east side, and it meets up the PCT, and then it goes down to Blue Lake. This is our easiest trail, but it's also the longest. This is really fun when you get on the PCT, as you know, and you run into these through hikers. So we ran into this young gentleman, and he had a great big mushroom in his hand and a big smile on his face. And he said to me, you know, I got this mushroom, and this friend of mine told me that if I fried it up and it turned blue, that it wasn't safe to eat. I said, well, good luck with that. That's East Crater. It's about 8-9 miles round trip, up and back. And then Deep Lake is the pink in the the bottom one. That's a real steep trail up above, but once you get down on the plateau and up to Deep Lake, it's just gorgeous. It's about maybe 5-6 miles round trip. Anyway, those are the zones. Okay, we weren't given a choice. I mean, they were really kind to us because they gave us the easiest hikes. They were really kind to us. But the one at the bottom is the South PCT. That's a backpacking trip. We had only one group willing to do that, or able to do that, should I say. It's very steep, it's very remote, and I actually haven't done that one. But it was monitored one time. So how did we set up a monitoring schedule? Well, I'm really a user-friendly of Google Sheets. So I just put a Google Sheet out there, and I put their trail stewards' names, the dates, the zone, and how many sessions they were going to do, and whether it was completed on the date. So, and then people, of course, would cancel, and then other people would sign up, and I mean, it's just, it's constantly changing. But it worked really well for me, and it was easy to set up. And here's our sample data form. So we have, at the top of the form, we put in the semi-private, primitive, or transition period section. We put in the trail name, number 48 to the PCT, East Crater, the date, whether it's a weekday, a weekend, or holidays. Now, weekdays for Solitude monitoring count for Monday through Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are your weekend dates, and holidays also count as weekend dates on this protocol. The trail names, the trail stewards' names, the date, the time we started, 10:35 a.m. We ended 2:50 p.m. for a total of 4.25 hours. And then we just tally. Do you think our tally sheets actually look this neat and dry and everything? Well, no, they didn't. But I got some that were damp and end of an envelope. But anyway, so that's basically what our data sheets. It's just paper and pencil. Other Forest Service rangers use iPhones. They have iPads, but this is pretty low key. This was pretty easy for us too. So our data range varied from 0 to 117th and even more traveling encounters per session. So it's a wide variety. So the National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance is our funder, and we have to be accountable to them, all right? And they require a midterm and a final report. And so in the midterms and the final report, you have to report on your timelines, your wilderness stewardship performance value scoring, how you coordinated with the Forest Service, and we also did news media. I did an LTE in the newspaper. I did an article. They interviewed us in a newspaper. I also did a radio interview on KBOO radio in Portland. We did that 2 years in a row. That was really fun. That was during COVID. That was actually good because it was during COVID. And then hopefully today's presentation will count as one. I'm hoping. We had to obtain some photos and send them some photos. Yep, and as well as our data, of course, that we obtain. So what did we accomplish? Well, so far, and we're not done yet because we still have till the middle of October. We still have a few more sessions to go. There's been over 760 hours of volunteer time. We've included 28 volunteers, and that includes not only broads, but some of their children and husbands or partners also wanted to join, and they were welcome. We had 43 4-hour sessions completed as of today, but like I said, we still have some more. This is Indian Racetrack. I just wanted to show you. It's a wide meadow and you can kind of see the track a little bit. I think it's now a trail. It goes up to Red Mountain. It's really interesting up there. I hope you can get up there. Okay, so here's my 71-year-old broad friend, and she's taking data. What did we find? We found out that most visitor contacts actually are found in September rather than August. You would think it would be August, but actually it's September. Blue Lake Trail from Thomas Lake is the most visited and has the least amount of solitude. And Placid Lake is the least visited and has the most solitude. The most solitude is found on the weekdays rather than weekends. No surprises there. Yeah. Okay, so overall, how did we impact the landscape? Well, we contributed data required for management decisions. Okay. We don't have a permit system here yet, and hopefully we won't. But that's one of the decisions that managers make. We shared memories. We built relationships. We acquired knowledge of place to continue protection of the Indian Heaven Wilderness area. So at our last membership meeting, we went around because it was a celebration of the Wilderness Act, and I asked them what their favorite wilderness was. And I was thinking, oh, they're going to say all these great wildernesses. No, 90% of them said Indian Heaven because they'd all been there. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. We learned new technologies. Well, technology we aren't the strongest group for knowing technology as older women, but we have learned some new skills there. We explored new trails. This is big. I mean, these are trails I never would have gone to on my own. And we also had a ball. I mean, we just have the stories and the memories now, and it's just been great over the 7-year period. Okay, so what did we learn? Well, you know what? You can make a difference. An organized group of people can contribute to a greater cause. This is so true, I found. So we're volunteers, and be flexible with the scheduling with the people, and have them bring their dogs, whatever they need to do. You know, we got one with goats. So let her bring her goats. That's fine. If you're just starting off, don't take off more than you can chew. Start small, like we did. We started with a $3,000 grant. We just built up to it over the years, and get yourself known so the Forest Service knows you. Be prepared for weather and smoke. Yeah, that's true. We got up to Blue Lake one year, and it was flooded. We couldn't even get in there. So anyway, there went that. Recommendations for your organization. Build a working relationship with your Forest Service people. Use existing recreational communities. I know you're all involved in recreational communities, and use these. Make a commitment to aid the protection and preservation of public lands. Explore opportunities under the National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance, and there's the web page. And then take a look at how your organization capabilities match with the funding opportunities. Obviously, we're not in a position to be building trails or falling trees or moving rocks, but we can monitor solitude. So we have some kind of quotes we wanted to share with you. One gal said it was very easy to incorporate the data collection into the hike I would be doing anyway. Okay? That was Susan Saul, by the way. Here, this is the PCT. The burn was 6 years ago, I believe. This is a funny one, isn't it? On Solitude Monitor, I experienced peace and camaraderie and witnessed the beauty of the wilderness areas. It feels good to be helping the Forest Service with the data we collect. Okay, great. There's my friend Linda again. She said, Solitude Monitoring provides me an opportunity to help with preserving wilderness areas and, at the same time, enjoying outdoors and friendship. True again. Here we are in the rain. If I had jumped into the ocean, it wouldn't have been any colder or wetter than what I experienced. We did have some wet days where the trail was just one Line of water. Yes. This is one legacy of my generation. I appreciate the opportunity to help the Forest Service protect and preserve public lands for future generations. That picture is so reminiscent of Indian Heaven Wilderness. The huckleberries are so robust and so brilliant in the fall. I just love that picture. Okay, is this the last hill I said? Yeah? No, probably not. So thank you so much for coming. We hope that you have found a new, some new ideas and to inspire you. We are a national organization, and we do have 2 chapters in Washington, one in the Seattle area and one in the Portland, Vancouver area. And you're encouraged to join. I have some information down there on the last table. Is it still there? Yeah, go ahead and help yourself to the publication. My card's there. If you're interested in joining, just sign your name on that sign-up sheet, and we'll get in touch with you. Yeah.
I have a question about the Stewardship Alliance versus the Stewardship Act that was passed by Congress. Is that the alliance a subgroup of that, or was that something that was passed beforehand? You know that different Forest Service agency parts of that are?
So the National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance is a funding mechanism. They're a national organization, and they fund stewardship projects. But they also have similar projects under their website for funding trail projects or invasives. Is that your question?
Yeah, because the Okanagan Wenatchee Forest was accepted as one of 15 areas across the state as part of the Stewardship Act to try to increase volunteerism to help improve trails and stuff in these different 15 areas. So I'm assuming your Stewardship Alliance is part of that act of monitoring how that is coming along, or?
Okay. Here's what I know, and it may not answer your question. In Region 6, is that right? Or 6? In Region 6, there were 3 funded funding applications for WSP. One of them was in the Willamette area in Oregon. One of them was ours, and I don't know what the other one was. Now, the Wilderness Act is a law, an act of Congress. So I'm not sure how to answer your question.
Yeah, I think they're separate. What it was the Stewardship Act didn't cost Congress any money. And basically they passed it trying to designate these areas. And one of the gifts of it was that outfitter fees could be applied towards trail maintenance. So that's kind of what we've done up in the Methow is some of the outfitter fees, which includes the heli skiers and the ski trails and stuff like that, was given to the Methow Valley Trails Collaborative to administer as trail maintenance work. So I just didn't know whether your stewardship monitoring was help them, because they're trying to see if over, I think it's like 10 years, if they can increase volunteerism on trail work and by designating these 15 areas under the Stewardship Act.
Okay, I think that's different because ours have to do with wilderness characteristics.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a separate. I'm not
And
sure.
you got money. So
We've been funded every year for 7 years. So yeah, they like us. And next year, actually, I got an email from, the Mount Hood Wilderness Ranger, and she wanted me to do stewardship monitoring in Mark Hatfield and maybe more areas. So it looks like we're going to continue for another year if we can get funding for it. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Curious to know, in 7 seasons of doing this monitoring, if personally or your organization's perspective of how the character of solitude is defined has evolved or changed at all?
We haven't. No, that we measure it the same way. Like I say, we're measuring either heartbeats of people, stock, dogs, and airplanes, and that's pretty much. And like this year, they just wanted the people, but the protocols are different for different wilderness areas. So it just depends on where you are, what wilderness. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm curious to know if you feel like the differences in depending on the area are,
Okay.
if they all make sense or if
Okay.
there's area for improvement.
That's a good question. Okay, yes, they do make sense. So Mark Hatfield is a wilderness that's east of Portland. And they get low-flying airplanes because of the Portland airport. So they need us to count airplanes, right? So that interferes with your solitude, absolutely. The busier ones want the dog counts. Some of them wanted the dog counts on leash and the dog counts off leash. Some of them wanted the backpackers, the overnighters. Some of them just wanted day hikers. Some of them wanted both. And this year they didn't care. So yes, it does influence where you are. I think that's a really good question. Yeah.
And drones? Are they asking about drones?
Not yet. I haven't had a drone question. Yeah, go ahead in the back.
How does your group decide which area you're going to be going out to? Do you reach out to the Forest Service and other organizations, or do they reach out to you?
Okay, good question. Initially, we reached out to them. But now they kind of know me, right? And they're like, oh yeah, we need this done. Let's contact her. So actually now they're coming to me, but they're telling me what they need. But we work together. Like we're not in a position to do these high altitude hikes. We're not. We're 70s and 80s. We can't do those things, and they know that. So they, like I say, they give us the easy ones, and we negotiate what we'll do and where we're going to go, because we don't want to go to Badger Creek. We don't want to go to Iron Creek way up there, because it's just too far of a drive for us. So yes, we do. They do listen to us. Yes, good question. Yeah.
Do you get to see much of the reporting or the results of how they use your data?
No, that's a good question. That's been asked of me before, and I can't. They're really busy people, and I send them my data, and you know what? Sometimes it gets lost, and so I send it to them again, and or there's a change of staff, and so they don't have access to the data that I sent. So no, I wish that we did. I don't know, and then because we're in all these different areas each time, you can't compare apples and oranges, because that wilderness is different from this wilderness, and vice versa. So yeah, that's a good question, though. I wish I knew that. Anybody else? Yeah, in the back.
I was just wondering if you're capturing anecdotal information, like are people coming by themselves or in pairs or in groups, what they're doing, questions of diversity. I know that's not what's being asked, but after 7 years or 7 seasons of doing this, you may be noticing trends.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, we do notice more people of color. But no, we don't have to take data on that. The only thing they do want to know, one wilderness wanted the groups, the numbers of groups. Like there's 6 in this group, there's 2 in this group, this is one. The only thing they want to know is if there's more than 12 people, because as you know, the Wilderness Act says no more than 12 people in a group. So the answer to that is no at this time, only over groups of 12. Yeah, does that answer your question? Okay, anybody, yeah, over here.
I had a question about whether you have seen trends in use changes with your 7 years of data, because that predates the pandemic. Did the busier places like Blue Lake get busier, or did some of the more the areas with greater solitude start to see an increase in visitation?
That's a good question. It's a tough one to answer, and I'll explain why. The first year we did this, Indian Heaven, we also had to do Mount Adams and Trapper Creek. So we have 3 different wilderness areas. So we didn't get the numbers of data collection for just this wilderness area. So again, I can't compare apples and oranges. I would say that I was involved in the restoration of Blue Lake Campground because of the overuse, and we go out in September. Well, I was a little younger, I was not quite what I am now, but we did do some restoration, some iceberging, we redid the campsite. So I can't answer that question because it's not, I can't compare it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I wish I could. Anybody else? Yeah, over here, yeah.
How do I join? Is there like an age requirement?
Yeah, you have to be great.
I'm out.
You're out.
Okay. You don't have to be abroad. You don't have to be male or female. You don't have to be old. Put your name on. There's a clipboard right there with a pen, I believe. Put your name and your email on that, and then take my card too. Okay, we'd love to hear from you. Yeah, sure. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Question. Solitude, like, do you know, or has anyone mentioned to you, like, the people that you're giving your data to? Is there some sort of threshold? Like, is there a number? Is there a percentage? Like that?
Oh no, no. We just collect that. We don't make management decisions. We just send it in. Yeah, that's a good question. No, yeah, Melanie.
Oh, I was wondering, because you said if you have funding next year, you'll continue.
Yeah.
If you continue to get funding, would this be ongoing indefinitely? Or
No.
is there like a question that the Forest Service is trying to answer, and like at some point they'll be like, yes, that was enough data.
Okay, that's a good question. These monitoring projects need to be completed every 10 years. Okay? So it's a 10-year cycle for them. But look at all the wilderness areas that we have in our area. So if you look at where you live and see when it was, ask your Forest Service people when it was done last, what they need now. We're now going on a 2-year cycle, which actually is better for me. It's less administration work for me. I don't have to write a grant every year. And so, yes, and then we can split it up. We don't have to do 5 and 5. We can do 4 and 6 or 3 and 7. It just gives us more flexibility. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Great question. Okay, go ahead.
Great questions, and now we have a couple questions for you too, and some points for discussion. So first, I'd like to know who all is in the room here. So please raise your hand if you are from a nonprofit organization.
All right.
Okay, quite a few.
Good.
How about just a citizen volunteer? Okay. From a jurisdiction? No one? How about you are a professional trails advocate or trail builder? Okay, all right. So there's some overlap there too, isn't there? All right. So the next thing I want to bring up for discussion is we'd like for you to think about your role in the future. I mean, certainly Lori and I had long careers, 30, 40-year careers. Laurie was an educator at the state and local school district level for many years. I worked as a geologist and outreach coordinator for 40-some years. And so we saw that there were things that we could bring to it and to this organization. And not working for government, believe me, gives you a lot more options, allows you to be more nimble in what you are saying and how you get involved in advocacy. So there are real advantages of that too. So I'd like you to think about how you, in your post-career times, there will be a post-career time, how you and your small recreational community might give, what kinds of career opportunity, what kinds of career skills and knowledge are you building right now that will help you in a small recreational community endeavor like the Great Old Broads Wilderness and the Solitude monitoring? What kind of skills do you have? Just put your hand up and, yes?
Well, among other things, I'm a GIS analyst, so
Oh,
Big
wow.
time, yeah.
I would imagine that GIS work would be extremely helpful for types of groups.
Absolutely, yeah. Emily?
Grant writing, I know that that's something that just is continuously needed.
Yeah.
Trail advocates and other groups I'm involved with, in Portland, they do a lot of grant writing, so, and it's a lot of folks in their seventies and eighties, and they've had previous experience writing for Portland parks and stuff, so, yeah. I think
Good.
That's
And understanding the system and how things work. Yeah, great.
And who you know.
Who else? What can you contribute? What skills and knowledge can you contribute? Maybe you're already contributing where you are because we had a lot of nonprofit people here. Anyone else want to bring anything up? Yes.
Organizing a group and how to bring people together and schedules.
You'd make a great old broadband leader. See me after this, would you?
Indeed.
So I'm a consultant that do all public sector work, and a lot of our work has public engagement, so getting the word out and communication and telling the story.
Perfect.
Terrific.
Okay, well, you may have the opportunity. You probably will. So be thinking about it further and put it on your bucket list of things you're going to do in life.
Yeah, yeah.
Your career doesn't last forever.
Well, don't say that now. You don't know that.
All right, so second, from the perspective of your current position, please tell us several concepts that you wish small nonprofit organizations understood that can make their work most effective. And maybe even if you're part of a nonprofit or if you're part of government. Yes, Emily.
How slowly things move sometimes. I think that a lot of folks want Charleston built right now, and we've been on the side of trying to push that forward. There's so much that has to go into it in, a long amount of time, and kind of conveying that is important, I think.
And maybe a corollary of understanding how long it takes is that they can be involved and maybe make it the difference between whether it happens or not. Okay, move it along. All right. Anyone else have some?
In that same vein, understanding the nature of bureaucracy, developing the skills of the patients and knowledge base to navigate environmental law, to navigate local permitting issues.
Great.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, well, I think that we are finished then. So I hope that if this session taught you nothing else, it's that when you have especially an established social group of people who are knowledgeable and have skill sets and already have that structure built, that they know one another, and they're passionate about a cause, you can make a real difference. So I hope that you are finding that in your organization, and we hope to see you again sometime, maybe on a trail.
Thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Nice job.